Hey guys, welcome to episode 50 of the Jungle Brothers podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Joe Worthington. We've got Paul Fertafilli.
G'day.
And Tiara Ward in the house.
Hello.
We've got our internship starting next month. Couple spots left. If you are interested, hit us up. Great little process, little program for aspiring young coaches to get into. If you didn't listen to last week's episode with Clint Hill, that was really good. It was our second one with Clint. He's a savage of a guru kind of PT mentor, fitness industry stalwart type. Very knowledgeable guy. That was a great chat. Thanks for listening today. Today's question that we're going to unpack is, can the Jungle Brothers as an organization become climate positive by 2022?
Ooh. Yes, we can.
Do you want to tell us what climate positive actually means?
Well, climate positive it's more of a marketing term in a way. But what climate positive means is, well, I guess the scientific term would be carbon negative, which kind of doesn't sound as nice, but it means the same thing. So what that means is that you get your company, and there's a couple of different ways of doing it. We want to do it the way we feel is the right way, and that's to reduce your company's footprint or carbon footprint to zero, or as close as you possibly can get to zero, and then invest money or time or energy into some form of carbon sequestering. Yeah. So carbon catching, you'd say. And to this day, the most effective way of doing that is to plant more trees.
To offset.
Yeah.
So that would then, say you're at a point of like 0 point, you're outputting zero carbon. You would then go about trying to offset or sequester the carbon, which then puts you into a carbon negative state, which means you're having you're having a positive effect on reducing carbon.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
hence climate positive.
Yeah, climate positive. And the offsetting is when you're still producing a carbon footprint, but then you're investing in something that captures carbon.
Okay.
So it's kind of like that's where the offsetting comes in. So we want to try and avoid the offsetting because we sat down with Jess Raspel today. She's
one of our members.
Yeah, talked us through the fact that what we do here is all very achievable for us to be able to get our business to a zero carbon output without having to offset the carbon. Well, some companies can't do that because of the chemicals they deal with.
If you're a carpet manufacturer or a fucking chemical company.
Yeah, or steel fabrication and that kind of stuff. For now, it's very, very difficult for them to have a net carbon zero output. So for them, they would be looking at some form of offsetting to try and take a similar amount or more than the amount of carbon out of the atmosphere that they're putting in.
I feel very fortunate in a sense for the kind of business we have that we're not creating a product that is a raw material. And like if you started your business mid last century, you just had no awareness of it, right? And you might have a fucking oil company or a steel company or whatever, and then to find out, oh shit, like this is having a massive impact on the planet. That would be a tough one to deal with as a business owner, right? Because you're driven by the success of the business and you want success for yourself and for your staff and all those things. And then to be like, shit, this house that I've built is on foundations that are unsustainable, or, it would just be not a nice realization.
Yeah, it's a tough one. But it doesn't mean you can't do anything about it. And I think we're starting to see now, just with the change in attitude that everyone's taking towards the science, that many, many different businesses out there, including some of the biggest businesses on the planet, are preparing to move into a state of zero carbon output because the alternative is pretty bleak. So, I mean, there's companies now that are smelting steel, which 20, 30 years ago was something that you just couldn't do without coal, and they're doing that with hydrogen, and that has zero output at all. If you're producing the energy through solar and wind, and then transferring that or producing hydrogen from that energy. Then you can smelt steel. I mean, you've got companies that are looking at different ways of powering their transportation systems and all that kind of stuff. So I think one of the strongest tools that you have when you take a step like this is to build the culture, and then the person next to you starts to think, oh, that maybe there's a couple of changes I can make in my business, and then before you know, you get this snowball effect, which is great.
So I guess the question that a listener might be thinking right now is, are Jungle Brothers a bunch of lefty hippies? And I know that this is quite a divisive subject for a lot of people because we do have, say, in current state of politics across the globe, we've got these people on the right, people on the left. The climate discussion is very much one that is kind of central to that battlefield. What's our thoughts on that?
It's not going to do any harm to the environment, whatever your politics are, if we start to offset our carbon. I mean, we know that there's a freaking 6 billion people in the world, and we know that without looking at a bunch of papers, we're fucking impacting the globe.
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem with carbon, and this is how well, we're a science-driven company, so we coach science, we use scientific data to program, we use our computers, we're on phones, we're doing social media, it's all driven by science. So it's very difficult to embrace the scientific world and then cherry pick the areas that you feel don't suit you at the time. So I think you're either all in or you're all out, really, at the end of the day. And with the amount of data that's coming out on what the repercussions are of too much carbon in the atmosphere, then it's safe to say that it's directly affecting our health. And we are in the health business. So for us to not acknowledge that, to focus on nutrition, focus on mental health, focus on getting strong, and then ignore the fact that there's something there that you're doing that is poisoning your water and poisoning your air, the two fundamentals of a healthy body, then the rest seems a little bit futile,
It's a great way to put it.
Well, it's contributing to, collectively with everyone.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Our effect is whatever it is, but we know that we're having an effect, right? Like you can't really exist now here in this civilization where we live without contributing to that in some way. So it only kind of makes sense that if we are going to create a thing, which is the Jungle Brothers, that we should try to reduce that effect, if not completely offset it, and then leave a legacy that has a positive impact rather than somewhat negative.
That's right. And a lot of people talk about carbon footprint, but a lot of people don't know what it is and how it actually works. So when you're pushing carbon into the atmosphere, and this usually comes from, or the majority of it's coming from burning fossil fuel, what you're doing is putting little molecules into the atmosphere that sit in that atmosphere for a very long time. And while they're in there, they just absorb heat. So they're like little heat beads that just float around. And they absorb the heat, and then they just start emitting heat. And the more you put into the air, the warmer they get collectively, and the more they start to heat the atmosphere. And then with that atmospheric increase in temperature, that's when change starts to take place, and we're seeing that. So I think we're finding out now that to mess with that kind of temperature by 1 or 2 degrees is having a huge amount of effect. And it was one of our coaches that was talking about this same subject. He said, it's crazy to think that only 1 or 2 degrees can disrupt the whole biome, the ecosystem that we live in. And then he said, actually, it makes perfect sense because you get 1 or 2 degree difference in your core body temperature, and the difference between being healthy or rushing off to hospital to potentially, fucking die.
Yeah.
So it just it shows us how important balance is, and you need a certain amount of carbon in the atmosphere. But it's all about balance, and at the moment we're disrupting the balance, So we need to start trying to pull that back. That's the process.
Yep, makes perfect sense. I think one of the parts about the whole discussion that irritates me a bit is that like everyone's responsible, right? Whatever you do, you drive a car or you catch a bus that uses fossil fuel, or you use gas or you use electricity that comes from coal. Like it's all, it's just built into our way of life. And so often when the conversation comes up, people get defensive because they feel like it's an attack on them. And then there's all the virtue signaling, which is, these are the measures I take, and I fucking
Totally.
recycle this, and I wear, shoes made out of fucking, I don't know, native grass. What, it's like, and it's like, like it's not an attack on an individual, right? But it's hard for us as often the ego-driven beings that we are to not feel threatened when someone starts to lay this stuff on us. And I think that's, like that for us, that greater part of that discussion is like, it's like we don't try and hang shit on anyone in our gym for what their diet's like. All we try and do is just lead by example and show and give people options for if they want to do the right thing and make it easy for them. But it's like you choose what battle you want to fight and you choose how far you want to take it. So I think it's very cool that we are just doing this and that it's just something that feeds into how the gym operates, and that it's like people can just feel good that they train in a gym that's doing that. That can be their form of contribution, that they pay us a membership and they attend classes here.
That's right.
Or they can choose to get more actively involved and join in the group and plant the plants in our garden and do all those things.
Yeah, or even look at the fact that, us introducing solar into our businesses has saved us money, and then there's someone to talk to about that, and then all of a sudden they're doing it at their house. That ripple effect is it's really potent and strong, and it's a subject that I don't like to talk about very often, even though it may seem I do, especially with people that feel the same thing you were talking about, under attack a little bit, because when you're disrupting someone's existence, and that's pretty much what the topic is tending to. Everything we do in life at this stage, generally, especially as Australians, has some kind of footprint. You pull your car, every fucking chocolate bar. You can't even drink a beer without shitting on the atmosphere.
Can't even drink a fucking beer, mate.
Yeah, it's confronting, So you can focus on all the problems around it, but when you bring the core of it up, people don't want to talk about it because it's such a big issue that takes a lot of change. It's like someone who's just eating shit, smoking ciggies, sinking piss, and you're like, hey man, you got to do something about your health. They're just going to be like, fuck off. I don't. Where do you start?
Yeah, that's right.
So we asked ourselves that question, and it was like, okay, well, where do we start in acknowledging this area of health in our lives or in our business life, where we can take the same approach that we do with getting someone who's unhealthy into a state of good health, and it's just small achievable steps over a long or mid duration of time, So those small steps that we've been taking, should we go over some of them?
Yeah.
The ones that we've already done?
Yeah, what is it? Yeah, what have we done already before making this declaration?
Yeah.
Oh, I reckon we go back to building the philosophy of the business and sitting down and working out what our values were at the beginning and then what we wanted to do with our gym. And, we wrote them down a long time ago. And yes, for the last few years, we've been focusing on fucking getting this thing up and running and being able to make money, etc. But it's always, the philosophy has been written in there, and now we have a good time where we can start actioning that part. So we wrote it down and we decided that we wanted to not only have a business that helps the individual and we're all developing ourselves, but we want to give back to the world because that's just what our beliefs were. So I guess, what we did was recognize it and write that down, and there were goals for us.
Yeah, there were a couple that stick out. I'm not sure if it was you. Oh, well, it was you and Joe that put them together. But the name that really that got me excited was Big Tribe, and the sentence that came with that was to be part of the don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution. Was that the one?
Yeah.
Or be
that
part
was,
of the solution.
Yeah, and be part of something bigger
Yeah.
than, and just that, part of something bigger than yourself. The three factions we had there were physicality, nourishment, and then the big tribe.
Big tribe, yeah.
And so physicality obviously speaks to what we do largely in this gym. And then the nourishment side of things talks more to the mental and the mental health, the environmental health, as in how you manage your space and the people you're around, what you eat, what you drink, all of those things. And then the big tribe was, what's your impact on the world and how are you contributing to something bigger than just you and your fam?
And and that's on whatever level or whatever scope. So how am I as an individual impacting those directly around me? And then, we can see now that we've a few years are really happy with where the gym's at. And now we've got somewhat of a platform now and the ability to be able to do something in a scope wider than us. Because I really believe, us moving this direction and making our announcement next week.
Oh, yeah.
If we can speak about that and moving in this direction, I think it's going to have a follow-on effect that could be very powerful. And that's us living out that philosophy that we wrote down some time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are then, like, in terms of that, in terms of how we see the business as a member of the world, like the business is an entity, it exists in this world, in Sydney, Australia, and in the whole globe. What is it that we've done thus far to have more of a beneficial impact?
Well, you said it before, and it's part of my own personal philosophy, and that's leading by example. And I think you put it really well, where, we're not setting out to preach to anyone, but purely do what we're doing. And if it aligns with anyone, then they can come and get with us and do the same thing or take inspiration from us. So leading by example, I think, and doing positive shit is the first thing that we've done.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely having an effect on people.
Yeah, and I think the first real visual step that we took, even though it was always there, was our community garden, and that just bringing attention back into nature and having exposure to nature and learning how to grow with the limited amount of space that you have. I think the ongoing effect of that garden, I can count probably 10 gardens off the back, off my memory of that I know of, that have been built off the back of that, off the back of our gym garden. And some
members who got inspired.
Some much bigger and nicer than what we've created, which is fantastic. Cool. So and it's all been around permaculture philosophy. So utilizing natives in the area that you're growing in, growing organic, bringing wildlife into your garden. All of this interaction starts to give you an appreciation for how important these systems are on this planet that keep us alive. So that was the first big step.
It's been such a good thing for us, hey?
It's great. And that all interacts. So the big tribe and that approach to big tribe, that carries over to our approach to mental health and your current environment, and the people that are attracted to that area are the people that you're surrounded by, and it just has this. There's a flow over between these topics, interaction with nutrition, because now you're looking at whole foods and seasonal, which is something else that we're big on, and it's part of that same philosophy or ethos.
Also, the establishing of the sustainability think tank. I think that's been really good. Just to establish it first and foremost. I mean, you may not have had the most amount of meetings or freaking, things that you've implemented just yet, but definitely having people in that group. There's a lot of conversation and information being shared between people. And you've had a number of meetings, and there's some initiatives that are going to come out of there.
What is the think tank?
The think tank was put together by me and I think there were 4 other members in the gym that all felt very similar about direction in the way we live and business and the rest of it. And we sat down and thought, okay, well, how can we start spreading a good message, and what levels can we work on, and how do we start connecting with other people that feel the same? And we did like an opening. We put a movie on in the gym. It was Chasing Coral, and it was just a documentary about what's happening in the ocean with coral bleaching, that kind of stuff. And from that movie, we gained maybe 10 members, and it was just a Facebook group. And all we do is just share different ways of changing habits in our life to live a more healthier existence. And it could be from what people are doing for their recycling, how they're composting. We've got members that have moved out of the building industry, the current building industry, and starting to build sustainable homes that have a zero carbon footprint.
Wow.
Yeah, and them sharing that knowledge on what is now a group of 50. It's connecting them to other builders that are interested in making the same changes. It's growing into something pretty special, actually. And, there's been workshops. There's a soap making workshop at Rhonda's house. She's teaching people how...
Soap making?
Yeah. There's like 12 members, on Sunday. Aaron was the only boy there. One of the coaches. And they're learning how to make soap.
How cool.
And I mean...
He likes to say clean, Aaron.
Yeah. It's just making soap without the petroleum-based products and all the rest of the stuff. And then, sharing stuff like there's a little local market up at Malabar that they're not using plastics. They're just bringing produce from a two-hour drive radius. So it hasn't travelled, and it's all seasonal, and it's cheap. So these kind of networks start to change the way people are living with small changes over longer periods of time, which equals a big change. It starts a trend. Yeah, so the think tank's been great.
That's cool.
It's a very strong community-driven device, which is great for our gym because these members are interacting on their own and without us, and that's pretty special.
What else we done? We got our roof full of solar panels.
Yeah, we've got 48 panels on our roof.
Our entire roof is covered in them, hey?
Yeah,
except for the skylight section.
Yes, we're producing a surplus of electricity now. So we put more power back into the grid than we take out, and our next step to become energy efficient and will probably get us very, very close to being carbon neutral without having to offset, will be a battery pack or some kind of battery wall.
Because at the moment we can only use it as we produce it, so it means during the day. During sunlight hours.
Yeah.
So if we get batteries, then we can be saving that power to use at night.
That's right. But even us feeding back into the grid during the day is a good
offsetting.
thing. Yeah, because that's where most of the power is getting consumed during business hours.
How does that work with, what I don't understand, how does that work with power companies whereby like consumers can sell back to the grid, but what if so many consumers were selling back to the point where it was taking business away from power companies? What happens then?
I think that's part of the issue. I don't really know. I've seen it in the papers, but there's a bit of an issue going on with power companies not having enough revenue to actually be able to maintain the systems, which is actually being used by the majority share.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think it's into territory now where it's new territory. Yeah, so they're not getting as much annual revenue, and the flow-on effect. It's a bit of a toing and froing at the moment, but
yeah, well, it's interesting because there's been a lot of reluctance to move to renewables for whatever reasons they are. But the problem with that is that people like us take initiative and they're like, well, if you know if I can do it, we'll do it ourselves. And then that system that is centralized starts to decentralize. And decentralization is actually a good thing for a system as a whole because you don't have these hotspots where you're reliant. Yeah, and you're reliant on it. But it's great for us because we're like fucking, we're liberated. But the problem is these big companies that produce a lot of fucking income for, people
I
who
got
work
shares
there
in that shit.
shareholders and governments and whatever start to lose out. So yeah, we're in a transition right now, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think for us, we just keep pushing forward. You know, we got so we got 48 panels on the roof. We're producing double the amount of power that we're going to produce that we use. Our next steps will be putting batteries in the gym, and then promoting travel to the gym and outside of the gym in ways that we can have an effect on our members, such as bike racks.
We're buying a Tesla for everyone. Tesla in every membership.
Tesla. Each want a Tesla, and then some kind of power station out front.
I want the truck one.
Yeah,
Comes with your membership.
I love that truck.
It's just
one.
that membership prices go up.
The Cybertruck or the Roadster would be nice.
Hey, can I ask?
1.9 seconds, 0 to 100, 1.9 seconds.
Are we allowed to make our announcement now?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
I think we should, because that's where this conversation's going. This is about how we achieve the announcement to your award.
Oh yes.
Well, the topic as mentioned was can we, and the announcement is yes we can, and we are venturing to do so. So, Jungle Brothers will become climate positive by the year 2022.
2022.
Oh, yes.
So our conversation with Jess Respel yesterday, she just finished her environmental science degree, I think. And Tiora has been digging around online for a long time and sharing information with Joe and I. We wanted to make sure we were making a good goal.
An achievable
goal. And we came up with 2022. So a couple of years from now, and the goal is for Jungle Brothers business to be climate positive.
And yeah, we've found out, which was really good news, that we're halfway
far
there.
off.
Yeah, we're probably 3/4 of the way there.
We're still learning about the whole space, though. I'd say as we go, because it's new, as you said, and there's different definitions of bits and pieces and different scopes. But we're definitely in a good position. And as T was just saying, we're reducing our footprint, and then beyond that, we're working in other scopes, which is how do we reduce the other parts of that our business touches, and that's our members, our products, our merchandise, and all that sort of thing.
That's right, and just getting there, and it's actually not that hard to do. Like when you say that, when we talk about these 48 panels on the roof, it's like, oh fuck, well, I can't afford 48 panels. Well, it's not. It's really simple. We got a phone call by a fucking solar company. They said, hey, we want to put some panels on your roof. It's going to cost you this much a week or a month. We did the sums. They told us how much the panels were going to produce. It ended up saving us $1,800 a year in power bills and did not cost us 1 cent. So,
because the moment we start paying the panels off, we're not paying our power bill.
Yeah. And we've saved $1,800 by doing something good. And it's having the initiative and also doing a little bit of research, or when those opportunities pop up, just to take them. You know, like we had to redo our bathrooms. They were small and pokey. We went for a cistern that has the sink on top, and when you flush the toilet, you get clean water to wash your hands, and that water will fill the cistern, and then system switches off. You don't have to touch any taps or anything like that. You just walk out. That system has saved our water, like the amount of water that we've consumed in this gym has been, I did the sums, and it was thousands and thousands of litres of water.
Wow.
Which is huge.
In a few years.
Yeah, especially in the current state that we're in now, when Warragamba Dam's at fucking 40%, and it's losing 0.5% every week. You can see this online. Saving water and conserving water is very important. We do the same thing with our garden. We didn't buy any water tank, but we spoke to the guys next door, and they said you can use ours because they're sitting there and it's overflowing every time it rains. So if you have the will and the inquisitiveness, you'll find a way to do these things without having a huge amount of effect on your life for a minimal cost. I think sometimes when we're thinking about these transitions and these changeovers, I always feel like, because you look at it as a whole, such a fucking huge task to overcome, and you think, fuck, I can't I can't make those changes. It's too much.
Where do I start?
Yeah, where do I start? It's like that big fat drinker. Oh, is that right? Overweight, drinking, smoking, and then you're like, oh, where do I start? Well, fuck, I'm just going to quit. You know?
Yeah.
Well, start on one of those three things. Maybe just go for a walk to start, and then chip away at it. You know, and before you know it, in 2 years' time, you're in a better place. You know?
It's cool. Those toilets have had I'd say, like an effect on heaps of people over the years, because a lot of people haven't seen them before. And when they come in, I forget that that's what they are, but people are like, oh, that's weird.
People freak out on
What
them.
is it? And then, like, you know, without even having the conversation, you know that they've thought, oh, that's why it's done. It's like, oh, that's actually a cool thing. Makes them think twice about every time they flush the toilet, and it's just a kind of a passive
People wig
learning.
out too because you can see visually how much water it takes to fill up the cistern, and you
walk
never
out
see
and
that
it's
in a
still going.
traditional toilet. You just hear it, but you don't actually think about what that sound is. But people are like, that tap won't turn off. And you're like, it will once the cistern's full. And that's how much water you've used every time you flush the toilet for the 36 years you've been on this planet. You know, and it's like, fuck, man, that's a lot of water, right?
And a lot of clean drinking water.
Yeah, good
Which
water.
is fucking crazy. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you're flushing shit down a toilet. Why do you need to have clean drinking water?
It's true.
So that's a decentralized grey water system. You know, so all this stuff is achievable.
It makes me. I was at a party on the weekend, slightly different hat on that weekend, but I was at a bar in Cockle Bay or something, and it was sort of getting towards that time of the afternoon. Like there was some pretty like bent people there. Every time I'd go to the toilet, there'd be like a few guys hanging out, like having D&Ms with each other. Fucking love you, mate. I love you. And I was walking the toilet, like, man, this is a fucking seedy toilet. But every time I walked in, there was 3 sinks. Every fucking time I walked in, one of the sinks was just running. full. And the first
How do
time,
people do that?
and the first time there was 2 guys standing in front of it having this kind of fucking love you, man, fucking, and these things just and the sink's full, and it's like shh.
Oh.
And I was just like, and I thought, oh, maybe it's broken or something, and I went and I just turned it off. I'm like, fuck, these dudes were totally oblivious. The 2 other times I went to the bathroom, different sink. Well, that one again, second time, but same thing. And I'm like, how have we become so like irresponsible with usage of such things? You know, like I thought maybe it's the automatic taps now that make people forget they need to turn shit off. But
I reckon you had one germaphobe at the party
that didn't want to touch.
and didn't want to touch the tap after their hands were clean.
Fuck, could be a thing.
And they just like, this was
Fuck
like
it.
a repeat offender. Someone
Wow.
else will turn that off.
What a fucking asshole. I mean, I'm a mad germaphobe. I turned that shit off with my elbow. But
I could just see with
got, like-
2 elbows.
I got like
Really tight.
17 pieces of toilet paper and I'm trying to like maneuver the handle. But yeah, it's like, you know, just that. It's kind of indicative of like, you know, I don't know, that guy was probably a mad tree hugger during the week and then got fucked up on the weekends and just didn't turn off taps. Fuck. It's like, man, shit. But yeah, there's so much space for improvement for us, for anyone, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and it doesn't mean you have to change your value system or whatever. It's like, look, if you want to be on this planet, then and you want your kids to be on this planet and their kids, then you might as well do something. It's no skin off your nose.
No, and people always think that if you make this decision, it's like all in. All right, no, I'm not allowed to fly on a plane. I can't get in my car anymore. You know, I'm not going to eat meat anymore. I can't eat any meat. But that's a ridiculous approach. It's never going to happen. You can't just quit life, but you can reduce the amount of meat that you're eating a week and introduce some form of beans and legumes. It's not going to hurt anyone. You can potentially ride your bike twice a week, you know, or just walk every now and then. You can try and like do less air conning at night and just get fitter and stronger so you don't need to be cooling your body as much. There's so many little changes you can make that all make a difference. And you can still have your trip to Bali, but at least the overall consumption of your life has lowered ever so slightly. And if everybody does that across the globe, and it'll have to happen one way or another, then we can start gaining a little bit of traction with this fucking issue that we've got going on. This impending doom that's kind of floating around in the back of everyone's head. We can start tackling it from a more logical place and a more systematic approach.
So what are the main hurdles for us in this venture in trying to become climate positive? You know, a couple of years from now, what are we dealing with?
Oh, well, Jess brought up a tough one, which I thought made us all
Stop.
feel very uncomfortable, and that was the fact that our 180 nutrition is a
A whey protein.
a whey protein, and you know everyone knows cows. Well, most people know cows produce a shitload of methane. Methane's like 10 times worse than carbon. It sits in the atmosphere for 10,000 years instead of fucking 1,000 or something like that.
Plus, you're chopping down trees for the fields, and then you're growing
for
food
process
for them.
shit, and that. So that was all a little bit. Oh, yeah, how do we deal with that one?
Killjoy, but it's true. It's true. Yeah,
And I do enjoy the 180, although I haven't had it for a while.
That and the Bear Blends. I mean, yeah, whey protein goes well for us. I mean, on that, I don't dispute the what would you say the impact
Effect.
that that dairy production and meat production has. But there is also there's also arguments counter to that, which are that there's a lot of fucking impact through growing huge crops of
Fucking soy.
things like that fuck the soil up and ruin the topsoil, and like there's
Palm.
it's not necessarily as black and white as don't do that but do that.
Yeah, I think the approach that we'll be taking with something like that is just going to the companies that we work with and asking them, okay, what's your stance on sustainability, and do you have anything in place that's moving your company into a better place in that particular area? So we start to align ourselves with other businesses that have the foresight and are taking conscious steps to do the same.
I spoke to Bear Blends a little while back, and I was like, "Do you guys have protein shakers?" And they said, "Nah, we don't do them because we don't make anything out of plastic."
Fuck yeah, that's
And I was like,
great.
"Oh, good on you guys."
I hate
I was like,
those
"I didn't want any anyway," even though I secretly wanted some for an open day. Sorry, guys. I'll order some from China now. They're getting shipped over. But
I reckon we could do like coffee cups, because we've got a lot of people who drink coffee in the gym.
coffee cups would be cool.
JB coffee cup would be awesome.
Something like that would be cool. But the protein shake is a hard one.
Yeah.
There's the stainless steel ones, but they've still got plastic lids.
Yeah.
I don't know what the fuck to do. What other hurdles we got?
That's kind of it, really. It's a
What,
product.
what about our equipment? Like we got a bunch of equipment and stuff,
Well,
steel manufactured in China and
a
shipped
lot of
over.
the stuff we get secondhand because we love being that vulture that
because we're tight asses,
takes from other
which is good. It's a good
gyms
thing.
that failed to survive the oversaturated industry that we're in. So that's always a good thing. Recycling equipment or using secondhand equipment.
Yeah. We really, when I think about it, we have used a lot of our equipment is secondhand.
Almost all of
you know,
it.
and the fans, we got
Yeah.
those.
So
Garden
from that,
materials.
if we purchase something that's secondhand, does that immediately make us carbon neutral in respect to that thing that we purchased?
Yep. Well, look,
Because it means that the person who bought it new was the one who absorbed that cost.
well, there's layers to it. So we've got our were they zones?
Scope 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, and 3. So scope 1 is
Combustible fuels.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure off the top of my head. I just learnt this yesterday. So that's fuel that your company burns up that you have control over. I think was the
Yeah, within the
particular way of
business.
describing it. Yeah, within the business.
We don't have any of that.
We've got like generators or like fucking.
We
Well,
don't
we're
even
on
have gas.
electricity.
Yeah, right.
Our heating things, electricity, and that's all on the solar. And then there is scope 2, which was electricity,
Which is energy, yeah. Which
was
we're
energy
halfway
consumption.
there.
Yeah. And then scope 3 was kind of the bigger one.
And that's infinite, really.
Yeah. So that's anything that your business. I can't remember the wording of it, but
Yeah, so it's like what you have contact with. So it would be how do we, what are we doing with our members to encourage them to consume less?
Yeah.
What other companies are we buying from? Which products are we utilizing ourselves or consuming?
Yeah.
They're the ones that could potentially on-go forever. But that again, that's a state of mind and the way
It's an aspirational kind of thing.
it is, yeah. And I guess in the utopian scenario that if everyone's doing that, then you reach that place where you're in a carbon neutral planet. you know. So that's, and, you know, it's an aspiration. You work towards
It's
it.
a sustained effort
Yeah.
towards that.
And collaborative.
Yeah, so we got to list a bunch of those things that we want to work, that we can work on, that we have, you know, we can work towards, and then we got to figure out which ones have the most impact and try and work on those ones.
Yeah, I mean, it can be as big as 48 panels and a power pack on your wall, or it can be as small as putting a bike rack out the front of your gym and, you know, running a bike riding challenge or whatever, which is little skin off anyone.
We should get a JB bike. That'd be sick.
Communal
Like
bike.
pushy.
Yeah, you know, because I was just thinking, you know, in
Couple
the
of JB
first zone,
community bikes, that'd be sick.
the combustion thing, you know, Fair Traders, which is really cool. They're around the corner.
Yeah.
Pick up the drinks. Little basket on there. Pick up the drinks. Don't
What,
know if
like
you
we
box
ride
it.
around there and
We
pick up the
ride
drinks?
around there and pick up the drinks.
It's a lot of fucking drinks, bruh. Need a little trailer. We get a little trailer. That'd be sick.
Trailer. Yeah. I wouldn't do it. We wouldn't do it, bro. We wouldn't stop.
Yeah, exactly. I don't ride, but it shortens my hip flexors.
And Jits doesn't.
Yeah, I guess that's. I guess it's kind of it's exciting in a way, like because there's opportunities in that transition. It's like, oh well, what things can we do differently?
Totally fun.
It doesn't have to be a ball ache. It's like,
totally
let's tackle that thing and let's come up with cool ways that we can, you know, make a change there, transition
Sure.
to something.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, look, you look at our fridge. It's all glass. It's all recyclable glass or fucking cans, and all of those products are Australian. One of them comes from 2 blocks away, and he takes his bottles back. Well, we're in the process of that happening. We got our all of our recyclables in the gym. We got our all our food waste going into our worm farm. We're looking at using the space as a place to collect like batteries and shit like that. It's just a small bin. Instead of chucking them in the fucking bin, we can. I'll be taking them down to Randwick Council. That kind of stuff. It's real simple stuff. It's quite easy to.
When people leave
execute.
their clothes here, we use them in the boxing bags to
Yes.
pack them tighter.
Yeah.
Yep. Gym towels. If people leave a gym towel, it gets turned into a bathroom hand towel.
Yep.
I just snatch it and then wash it, and then it becomes part of our
Yeah.
gym towel stock.
It's true, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I'm
actually
doing it for the world.
I've had members come to me and say, "Do you think I could go through the boxing bag and see if my top's in there?" I laughed.
We give them notice. We're like,
Give them heaps
guys,
of notice.
this fucking massive pile of lost property is getting utilized in 2 weeks, and no one says shit. And then you do something, and they're like, I had a Lululemon sports jacket that I only wore once. So, well, you should have valued that shit a bit more, shouldn't you?
People are ridiculous with the things they leave behind here.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we found some strange objects. Strange.
Strange. Good stuff.
Yeah, you'd think someone would be coming back for something like that, but yeah, anyway.
But I suppose then the main hurdles are, you know, we've taken care of a lot of the big ones, but really it's looking to our suppliers. It's looking at the materials that we're using from here on in. Probably looking to them what clothes we're using, like for merchandise and stuff.
That'll be a big one.
Yep.
Geese and clothes.
Yep.
And it's funny, like you think, no one's going to be doing something sustainable in that area, and then you fucking do a Google search, and lo and behold, there's 5-6 companies that are doing something, making a
true.
change. And if they can't do it with the products and materials that they're using, they might have some form of offset system that they're using at the time, or
Yes, yeah.
which is something that eventually, well, we're doing it already, but it's something that once we become officially carbon neutral, then our way of sequestering will be investing a little bit of money into forest regeneration. And we'll probably, we're doing that now.
We've always done that,
Eden.
right? When
Yeah,
we
we're
do
doing
a
that with
when we
Eden.
do a fundraiser, it's always to Eden Reforestations.
Eden Reforestation. So they grow trees. Like, I think it's like 10 cents a tree. So
No, it's more.
as in cost the tree
yeah,
costs more?
yeah.
Isn't it 100 trees for $1?
Yeah, it's something like that.
That's 10 cents a tree,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's 10
Oh, no,
trees.
it's 10
10
trees.
trees.
Fuck.
It's
So
a
I
lot
think
of
it's a tree
trees
for
for
1
very little
cent.
money.
Yeah, it's 10 trees a
They're
dollar.
little saplings,
Yeah.
yeah.
10 trees $1. Something like that. But
And they do it all around the world.
They do, but when they grow the trees, they teach the people that live close to those trees to how to utilize that space, make an income from it by looking after it rather than just chopping it down again and selling the wood. So they protect the trees as well. The ACF, which is Australian Conservation Foundation, is the other one that we're currently investing in as well. And those guys focus solely on what we're doing here. And we need it because we've lost 6 million hectares of trees. A lot of the money that's coming from the government and also coming from donations is going to the people and the animals, which is fucking amazing. But we can't have none of that's going to exist without the trees, and we need them to grow back and for that bushland to get healthy again. And it's going to be a really big job for National Parks and Wildlife to be able to make sure that all that bush regenerates, and then also keep the hazard reduction down, and on top of that, protect it from burning again the way it has. So, I mean, that's a problem that I don't think anyone has the answer to, but it definitely needs the people, the professionals, and the specialists need more income in those areas for that to happen. So they're the two major areas that we'll be looking at carbon sequestering here right at home in Oz, and then a little bit overseas as well. Places like Madagascar.
Madagascar.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Isn't that a kids' movie?
It is, but it was a country first.
I'm joking, people.
Madagascar and Haiti, supposedly the highest level of deforestation in the world, something like that. So I heard. Could be wrong.
Savage. No, sounds about right. I remember seeing on the reforestation on the Eden on their website that it was talking about Haiti and
yeah.
Is there any closing pieces on this matter that we wish to mention to the people? Is there anything they can do if they want to get involved with us?
Mate, it's a trend, and trends, like, people look at trends, it's a trend, but you know what? Trends change the direction of humanity. Get on board, get amongst it.
Hell yeah.
If you have any questions on how to take those first steps to make your environment that you live in, and the earth, the air and the water that you breathe, better quality, or keep it the quality that it is, and you don't know where to start, you just come and talk to us. We'll help you
Reach
out.
out, follow our story, because there'll be some changes coming this year.
Yeah.
Come to one of our planning days, member or not. Just come down.
Yeah, make us some sandwiches.
Yeah.
Learn something.
Vegan sandwiches.
Let's not, all right. Still got to support this musculature, all right, that I'm trying to hold on to right now while I'm rehabbing my knee. Desperately. I got to go have a protein shake anyway, so let's wrap it up there. But
Windows closing.
thanks, fam. Thanks, boys. That's we're going to make the announcement. Well, it'll be happening by the time this episode comes out. If you do want to get in touch with us, junglebrothers.com. Find us on Instagram at Jungle Brothers Movement. Drink the coffee we drink at Panavore Cafe in Pagewood. They sponsor our show. Thanks to those guys. And if you want help with training, mobility, you want to know about our internship, anything like that, just reach out, get in touch. We're super available. And we're here for you. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next week.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye.